And welcome back, guys and girls, to video number 30. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to pass the South African Civil Aviation Authority Commercial Pilot License Aeroplane written exams. Let's get into it. Okay, so what are the South African Civil Aviation Authority CPL exams? Well, I've divided them into two here. The first batch is 8+1. And the second batch is 8+2. So what do I mean by 8+1? Well, you have a set of 8 CPL exams that you must complete in a period of 18 months. You then have an additional exam, which is the general radio exam, which you do not have to complete in that 18-month period. Now, if you do the 8+1, you can then go ahead and do the commercial pilot license VFR. But if you want to achieve the commercial pilot license IFR, that is instrument flying, then you not only have to do 8+1, but you have to do 8+2. The 8+2 are general radio and the instrument rating written exam. Now, of course, with these sets of exams, you can either do CPL VFR single engine piston or multi-engine piston. Same thing with the 8+2. With the CPL IFR, you can either do single engine piston or multi-engine piston. Now, once you have completed the 8 exams, they are then valid for a total of 36 months. Same thing goes with the general radio or the instrument rating exam. As soon as you've completed any one of those 2 exams, then they are also valid for 36 months from the point in which you passed those exams. So, what are the 8 commercial pilot written exams? Well, I have them written here. The first one is Instruments and Electronics, Human Performance and Limitations, Radio Aids and Communication, Air Law, Aircraft Technical and General, Meteorology, Flight Planning and Performance, and General Navigation. So, you may ask yourself the question, why have I ordered these exams in this particular order? Well, as you can see, I've divided them into 2 different batches. The first batch is the set of easiest exams, or shall I say, the least challenging of the exams. And the second batch are the most challenging that I had faced. So starting off with the first set of easiest exams, what do I mean by easiest or least challenging? Well, what I don't mean is I could walk into the exam room not having done a single bit of studying. No, what I mean is the questions in the exam paper themselves were pretty much straightforward. What you ask is what you get. What they ask is what you get. In terms of the calculations, what they ask is what you get. So if we go up to instruments and electronics, with instruments and electronics, the reason being I've listed this first is 2. The first one is, that was the first exam that I actually passed. The second one is, I think the reason why I found it least challenging is because a lot of the questions related to items that I had learned having played the game Microsoft Flight Simulator. You know, from Microsoft Flight Simulator X all the way back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2002. So a lot of the questions were related to items such as the flight management system, the MCP panel, the primary flight display, navigation display, the colors of the navigation display, TCAS, etc., etc. So for me, I had already experienced I had a familiarization of these type of items prior to entering or studying for the exam. So when the questions came up, it was somewhat straightforward for me to answer them. If we now come to radio aids and communication, as I mentioned, the questions were pretty much straightforward. However, the one thing that you have to look out for is that radio aids and communication, you are very limited in the amount of questions you have to answer. From what I recall off the top of my head, I think those questions were about 29 or 28, or maybe even 30 that you have to answer. So because you're so limited in the amount of questions that they give you, or you have a very short range of error. So, for example, if you get more than 2 questions wrong, if you get more than 3 questions wrong, then you will fail the exam. Remember, the pass mark of these exams are 75%. So you just have to make sure that you have gone through a lot of the study material as well as the online question bank or bank of questions that you are using to pass radio aids and communication. Okay, so moving on to air law. Now, air law, having talking to some of my fellow students when I was studying for that particular exam, some people found it challenging because of the type of wording that they use. So that's something that will catch you out. But if you go through a number of iterations of the law itself, in my opinion, it is somewhat straightforward. Now, air law today, 2021, is different to air law prior to 2014. This is something that I'll discuss later on. Okay, so coming to aircraft technical in general, I found that that was the most hardest exam that I had to study for. The reason being is there is such a vast amount of information that you had to study for it. Not only was there such a vast amount of information, each question that they asked you in the exam was quite in-depth. It was layered. So somewhat they were asking you 3 questions in one, and you had to ensure that you had answered those questions in the correct sequence before you get to the final answer. So with aircraft technical in general, there are a number of subject matters or subcategories involved. You've got airframe and systems, you've got electronics, and you've also got power plant. And when you get into airframes and systems, you've got emergency equipment such as what type of oxygen tanks you should have in the cabin of a narrow or wide body aircraft, as well as in the flight deck, your hydraulic systems, your AC systems, your fuel systems. If you're looking at power plants, we've got the piston engines and turbine engines, and we have different forms of turbine engines. So there's a lot of subcategories that one has to understand, and the depth of the concepts themselves are pretty, well, deep for me. So I found ATG most challenging. Now, coming to meteorology, meteorology has some form of similarity with air law in the sense that it is the wording that tricks you. No matter how good you are in English, the wording is how they catch you out. In addition to that, meteorology actually also has a vast bank of questions to study from. So for example, with the online study bank that I was looking at, they had around, at the time, 3,642 questions. What I found with meteorology is that, well, if I actually studied half of those questions, about 1,821 or so, I pretty much got the entire gist of those set of questions. The reason being is I saw that at least half of the questions were repeated again in the second half. It's just that they altered some of the wording. So there was a slight nuance in the differences in the 2 sets of questions. But the point being is, if you at least studied half of the set of questions that they provided, you are somewhat guaranteed to pass the exam. Now, with flight planning and performance, the key to passing this was accuracy. There is a lot of graphs that you have to do. It's divided into 3 different sections: CAP 696, 697, and 698. 697 and 698 are graphical questions, whereas CAP 696 are related to mass and balance questions. So you had to be particularly accurate with the graphical questions. Otherwise, if you're off by a point, whatever it is, then you're wrong. So that was the particular challenge of flight planning performance, just the accuracy that you have to have when answering the questions. Last but not least, we have general navigation. Initially, I found it quite challenging. Initially. And I think it was just a case of me grasping the concepts. But one thing that I found when you were doing the examination itself is a lot of the questions were just related to calculations. So if you know how to really operate the CX3 or the CX2 flight computer, then I also think you're pretty much guaranteed to pass the general navigation exam. Okay, thank you very much everybody for watching today's video. If you do enjoy this content, please do hit that subscribe button. We are at 96 subscribers. 4 more, that was a bit of a tongue twister, wasn't it? 4 more away from 100. So that's the target for this month. So like I said, if you enjoy this content, I think about 70% or so of you have not subscribed to this channel. So if you do enjoy this content, please do hit that subscribe button. And thank you very much for watching. Cheers, guys. Bye.